The Zodiac Killer terrorized San Francisco in the late 60s, taunting police with coded messages and claims of dozens of murders. 40 years later, the mystery has never been solved. And now, one man claims to have indisputable evidence. He knows who the killer is.
The Zodiac Killer, a shadowy figure who terrorized Northern California in the late 60s, left a chilling legacy with cryptic letters and ciphers. Despite decades of dead-end leads, one Louisiana man's startling claim reignited global interest, inspiring best-selling books and documentaries. Gary L. Stewart didn't just claim to know the Zodiac's identity, he claimed the notorious killer was his own biological father. The shocking revelations that changed everything.
My mother found me 12 years ago. She tracked me down when I was 39, much younger, and that reunion was so fulfilling for me. I just felt if I could meet the man who gave me life, then I would be complete, right? I would have my entire identity, and I could make sure that reunion was as happy as the one with my mother.
The moment that would alter Gary Stewart's life forever came during what should have been an ordinary evening watching television. As he sat in his Louisiana home, a 1969 wanted poster from the San Francisco Police Department suddenly flashed across the screen, the familiar composite sketch of the Zodiac Killer that had haunted law enforcement for decades. Stewart later recounted that his heart stopped and he believed he let out an audible scream. The face staring back at him from the television bore unmistakable resemblance to someone he knew intimately, the man he'd been searching for relentlessly. His son rushed into the room, eyes fixed on the screen, and made an observation that would echo through Stewart's mind for years to come. The boy declared that the person in the wanted poster looked like his father. Stewart walked into his office, retrieved the only photograph he possessed of his biological father, what he had been told was an old DMV photo, and made a chilling realization. He told his son that the face on the television wasn't him, but rather his grandfather, Earl Van Best Jr. The revelation marked the culmination of a search that had consumed Stewart since 2002 when his birth mother, Jude Guilford, then Judith Chandler, contacted him for the first time. Stewart had always known he was adopted, but the details of his origins remained shrouded in mystery until that fateful reunion. Guilford revealed that Stewart's biological father was Earl Van Best Jr., a man whose story proved far more disturbing than Stewart could have imagined. The photograph Stewart thought was a simple DMV picture turned out to be Van Best's 1962 mugshot, taken after his arrest for the rape of Stewart's mother. That single image became the cornerstone of Stewart's theory that his father was not just a criminal, but one of America's most notorious serial killers. Stewart's conviction grew stronger as he delved deeper into the research, eventually leading him to co-author the New York Times bestseller, The Most Dangerous Animal of All, with journalist Susan Mustafa. The book catapulted Stewart to international attention and spawned an FX documentary series that would examine not just his claims, but the psychological toll of his obsessive quest for truth. The Dark Genesis, the ice cream romance. The story of Gary Stewart's conception reads like a tabloid nightmare that shocked San Francisco Bay Area residents in the early 60s. In 1961, Earl Van Best Jr., then 27 years old, spotted a pretty girl outside an ice cream shop and initiated what would become known to local newspapers as the ice cream romance, a relationship that was both illegal and scandalous. The girl was Judith Chandler, who was about to turn 14 years old when Van Best began pursuing her. Their relationship quickly escalated into an elopement, though the marriage was promptly annulled due to Chandler's age. The couple's defiance of the law and social norms made them local celebrities for all the wrong reasons. Van Best was subsequently arrested and charged with child stealing, statutory rape, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. The charges reflected the serious nature of his crimes against the young teenager who had become pregnant during their relationship. San Francisco newspapers seized upon the story, making the ice cream romance front-page news that captivated readers with its combination of forbidden love and criminal behavior. The saga took an even more dramatic turn when Van Best, released on bail, spirited Chandler out of San Francisco and began a life on the run. The couple lived as fugitives, moving from place to place to avoid law enforcement. Their journey eventually led them to New Orleans, where Chandler gave birth to Gary Stewart on February 12, 1963. The brief period of family life lasted a month. Van Best's abandonment of his infant son was as callous as it was shocking. He took the 1-month-old baby to Baton Rouge and left him in an an apartment stairwell, discarding his own child like unwanted cargo. The act of abandonment would haunt Stewart for decades and drive his relentless search for identity and answers. Both parents were eventually arrested, marking the end of their tumultuous relationship. Chandler, now facing life as a single teenage mother with her partner in jail, made the difficult decision to put the baby up for adoption. Lloyd and Leona Stewart welcomed the infant into their Baton Rouge home, providing him with the stable, loving environment that his biological parents had failed to offer. The evidence.
This photo shows a striking resemblance between Best and a sketch of the Zodiac Killer. Gary Stewart's father died in 1984, but he says forensic experts have matched his father's handwriting to cryptic notes the killer left behind.
Stewart's transformation from abandoned child to amateur detective began with painstaking research that he documented in journals, later forming the basis for his explosive book. His methodology combined traditional investigative techniques with modern forensic analysis, creating what he claimed was the most comprehensive case ever assembled against a Zodiac suspect. The physical resemblance between Earl Van Best Jr. and the Zodiac composite sketch formed the foundation of Stewart's theory. Beyond the initial shock of recognition while watching television, Stewart commissioned professional comparisons between his father's mugshot and the widely circulated police sketch. The similarities were striking enough to convince Stewart he had identified the elusive killer. Handwriting analysis became another crucial part of Stewart's case. He enlisted forensic experts to compare notes from the Zodiac Killer with his father's handwriting on his marriage certificate. The analysis suggested potential matches in letter formation and writing style, though handwriting analysis remains a controversial forensic discipline with limitations acknowledged by experts. Perhaps most compelling to Stewart were the cryptographic connections he discovered. The Zodiac Killer had taunted police with complex ciphers, insisting that cracking them would reveal his identity. Stewart claimed to have found his father's initials embedded within these cryptograms, particularly in the famous 340-character cipher that had puzzled investigators for decades. Stewart also highlighted behavioral similarities between Van Best and the Zodiac Killer. Both men demonstrated fascination with ciphers and codes, suggesting an intellectual approach to their crimes. Additionally, Stewart noted their shared obsession with school buses, pointing to the Zodiac's threat to target a school bus full of children and Van Best's documented interests in similar targets. The geographic connections further strengthened Stewart's conviction. Van Best had lived in the San Francisco Bay Area during the peak of the Zodiac's activity in 1968-69. The killer had even corresponded with San Francisco Chronicle reporter Paul Avery, the same journalist who had covered the ice cream romance scandal years earlier, creating what Stewart saw as more than mere coincidence. Stewart tracked down Van Best's high school girlfriend, who had briefly reconnected with Van Best in adulthood. Her testimony was chilling. She described seeing pure evil in Van Best's eyes during their adult encounter, becoming so frightened she locked her doors, instructed her daughter never to answer the phone again, and eventually burned a stack of letters Van Best had sent her over 20 years. The San Francisco Police Department took Stewart's claims seriously enough to interview him and collect DNA samples, though they neither have confirmed nor ruled out Van Best as the Zodiac Killer. The case remains open and active, with investigators expressing willingness to examine new evidence while maintaining their policy of not commenting on ongoing investigations. Independent investigators commissioned by the documentary The Most Dangerous Animal of All discovered multiple holes in Stewart's assertions, finding that several key pieces of evidence were either misrepresented or completely fabricated. The revelation that Stewart had created information that he claimed came from official police reports was particularly damaging, undermining his credibility. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think we will ever discover who the Zodiac Killer was? Let us know in the comments section below.